for the recording. So present your entire screen. Here we go. Okay, share. Now you should be able to see my presentation now. It's coming up, loading up. Here we go right now. So here it is. So as you can imagine, during times like these, sleep becomes difficult and a challenge. And certainly that's why I've initiated this webinar today, is to help those during these times to get on top of their sleep. Because if we don't get on top of our sleep, it just compounds, I guess, bad habits, our moods, affects our moods. And so what we want to do is obviously get onto that sleep early on, get that underway, and that really gives us more resilience to the stresses that we're facing every day. So it's essential that we get on top of this sleep. And I'm going to cover sleep holistically. So I'm not just going to cover nutrition. I'm going to cover all lifestyle factors as well, and environmental factors. So we're going to cover all those areas. We'll also touch on mental health, because it's a key need in terms of addressing in relation to sleep. So as I mentioned earlier, if you got any questions, please send put them on the chat box, and I'll check the chat box periodically as I go through the presentation. So just a little bit about me for those that don't know me. There's some on the call that do, and there's others that don't. So I'm a father of two lovely kids. This is Adriana here on my right, and Ollie in the background, and Sophia at the front. So they're going through homeschooling at the moment, and we're obviously, Adriana's working from home, I am, so we're just like everyone else, juggling to these changes and working through this transition. In terms of my qualifications and background, I started my career as chemical engineering. So I did that at UNSW. I worked for a chemical company called Orica. I worked in their explosives division for 15 odd years, and then decided to follow my heart and my passion, and my soul really led me to studying health. And I ended up completing a double degree, a degree in complementary medicine, as well as a degree in nutrition and dietetic medicine. So that's a little bit of background about me. So what's important in relation to sleep? So I've highlighted 5 points here of key importance. It's important that we do the right things during the day, because they will impact the night. So we will be factoring in on activities that, if not done well during the day, then that does affect nights. Obviously, natural light is critical, and I think I'm just going to check to see if I need to accept someone into the call. Wait up. Here we go. Sorry about this. So yes, natural light's critical. I'm going to go into why in the next slide. Diet, obvious reasons, very important. Movement, which you can say, is exercise, but I'm just looking at just generally moving our bodies, getting moving. We don't have to do specific exercise. We just need to move more. And regular breaks. So this is a key point, which I'll elaborate on further as we move through the presentation. So these are really the key areas I'll be covering today, and obviously in a lot more detail. Okay, so this next graph you can see here is sharing with you what cortisol does throughout the day when we're in our circadian rhythm. So let me explain a few of these definitions. So cortisol is a stress hormone, right? It's our up and go hormone. Yes, it's natural. Our body produces it, and it gets us going in the day. So it is good for us. It will help us meet our deadlines. So we do need it, but what we don't need is excessive cortisol. And I'm going to go through ways in which we can make sure we stay on top of cortisol. Because if cortisol's high in the evening, so where it's supposed to be low naturally, if everything's going well, so around this 9 p.m. when it's supposed to be low, If it's not, then this is when you'll struggle to get to sleep, because melatonin, which is our sleep hormone, will basically be suppressed with high levels of cortisol. So the manufacture of melatonin won't be as good when we've got high levels of cortisol. So what we want to do is regulate our cortisol so it stays in this circadian rhythm. Now, what is the circadian rhythm? It's the night-day cycle. So it's here, in the morning, we expect cortisol to be rising. So if you wake up and you're feeling lethargic, that's not natural. That means you're out of your circadian rhythm. If you wake up energized, then that's normal. And, cortisol's doing its job. It's rising. You should be feeling peak alertness around mid-morning, as you can see here. And then as the day goes on, it starts to dissipate. And this is where we have this afternoon slump, as we know. So yes, cortisol's quite low at that 3 p.m. mark, or that 3 p.m. And yeah, if you are feeling low energies 2 to 3 p.m., that's completely normal. It means you're in the circadian rhythm. Some cultures will actually have a siesta at that time, a little power nap. So yes, that is beneficial, but not an extended power nap, because that will affect your ability to fall asleep at the end of the day. So this is what we want our cortisol doing. Now, the issue is when we have lots of stressors in our lives, like lots of media alerts and new cases of COVID-19 deaths and extended lockdown and all these changes and uncertainty, it introduces more stress into the body, and this cortisol keeps rising. So we may have it rising in the morning, but it may keep rising, and it will certainly rise with coffee. So caffeine obviously stimulates cortisol production. And then obviously stresses such as I said, media reports, or our boss asking for something that's due, where is it, and we haven't done it, or things like that, or that argument or something like that. These are all different stressors. There's environmental stresses. I'm going to cover them shortly. So this is what I'm going to help you today, is get your body and help you maintain your body in this circadian rhythm. So at the end of the day, you've got low cortisol, high melatonin. Now, this next pretty graph shows essentially, again, cortisol. So this is plasma cortisol. It's in our body. As you can see, it's declining as the afternoon goes on, and it's hitting a low at around 9 p.m. And as you can see, melatonin production is starting at that point in time. So that's when we should be starting to feel tired, is around this 9 p.m. So 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. is when we start feeling that sedated, yes, I'm ready for bed. And if you're feeling wide awake at that 9 to 10 p.m., then your plasma cortisol is elevated, and hence lack of production of melatonin if you've got elevated cortisol. As you can see here, our core body temperature will start to drop as cortisol is low and melatonin rises. So it's important we maintain good, steady climate in our rooms, and the recommended sort of degrees of that 18 to 20 degrees room temperature is ideal to fall asleep. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Is, it's peaking. You can see here around 3 a.m. in the morning, we have melatonin peaking. So this is our really deep sleep. We're really sedated. We shouldn't be feeling wide awake. And then it starts dropping, and then that's when, cortisol starting to pick up. So getting us ready for the new day. Okay, so that's what's happening on a physiologically within our body. And now I'm going to get into the practical sides of what you can do to regulate cortisol so it doesn't stay elevated and it stays in that circadian rhythm, which I showed earlier, and also to maximize this melatonin production. So you can obviously fall asleep, and most importantly, stay asleep and get that deep quality restorative sleep. That's what we're after. We want to be able to repair during our sleep, not this surface sleeping where we're not actually doing much other than resting. We're not allowing this cellular repair, which our body needs, repair muscle tissue, start moving out toxins and, start all of these processes which our body does and starts healing and repairing. Okay, so sources of stresses that will elevate cortisol. So here they are. So obviously negative thinking. So if you're thinking doom and gloom around COVID-19, then that's not going to help. Obviously, we need to start looking for the good, looking for some optimism amongst the figures. And as you can see you've probably seen the latest data in Australia, it's looking good. Yes, the curve's flattening. It has peaked and we're managing it well. So that's good news. That's what we want to stay focused on, is that if we keep doing these good practices that the government have advised us to do, we keep that going, we're going to really see these cases drop off. And, eventually a vaccine will come in and, will help protect us from this virus. Obviously, poor diet. So diet high in takeaway, processed foods, low nutritional values. So not foods that are really rich in nutrients, such as your fruit and vegetables or your fresh fruit produce. So we're going to go into that more detail. I just wanted to touch on it here. Excessive exercise. So as much as we say exercise is good for us, excessive exercise isn't. It results in elevated cortisol. It also starves our microbiome, which is, you've probably heard of, is our gut. So the microbiome resides in our gut, and it helps us with digestion. It also produces vitamins that nourish us. It also helps us assimilate, further break down the food and assimilate those nutrients. It also helps produce serotonin, which serotonin is key for melatonin production. So we need serotonin in order to produce melatonin. So obviously our gut produces, not obviously, but our gut does produce around 70% of serotonin. So, excessive exercise will starve the gut of oxygen, or our bacteria of oxygen, and it will start to die off. It will start having bacteria grow that loves lack of oxygen, and that's not so good. That's more your pathogenic bacteria. So we don't like this excessive exercise because it elevates cortisol, and it doesn't help with our gut function, which gut really has, as you've probably heard, a relationship with our brain. It's, in some domains, it's defined as our second brain. Lack of sleep obviously results in elevated cortisol because our body goes into survival mode and wants to keep you alive, to keep away from those stresses, or to keep you managing through stressful times. So yes, you will, be able to function on lack of sleep. However, it's not good long term because our body's not going through that maintenance that it needs. Just like our car, if we keep pushing our car and not take the car in for maintenance, it will eventually break down. Our body is the same. And then I've got environmental factors, so pollution, electromagnetic frequencies, that are emitted from our phones. So excessive technology use, excessive exposure to EMFs, in particular phones. But, being under, large wires that conduct electricity, those sort of things do produce EMFs as well. So certainly turning off your Wi-Fi at night and things like that is very beneficial because it's obviously reducing the exposure, reducing the stress exposure your body's under. And then mold. So old homes that have rising damp issues, this mold produces toxins that affect us. So these are some of the sources that we need to think about that may be in our lives, that we can control some of these sources. We can certainly hang out with less negative people. We can choose what news to read and when to read. We can choose the amount of social media we can consume. So this will all help us regulate our emotions. obviously we've got choice around our diet. We can obviously exercise light to moderately. We're talking about sleep today, and then we can do things around minimizing our exposure to Wi-Fi or devices that emit this radiation. Again, I guess a bit more on this areas that help up cortisol production, and now I'm introducing areas that help down regulate, help us control cortisol production. So as you can see, what I've underlined here, the two top points in terms of uppers is what we're experiencing at the moment, hence why I've put together this webinar. There's a lot of uncertainty and we're feeling out of control because the government's determining who's working and who's not. And, so we could be potentially without income, we could have reduced income, all a result of what's happening, and all these actions are out of our control. So in these sort of times, we need to focus on what's in our control, and certainly our health is, and what we do around our health and our sleep and our diet and our exercise. So I think in these times, as much as there's things out of our control, let obviously the government do what it can around providing some relief and assistance, and banks and things like that, allow them that to run its course. And then you focus on what you can control. And that's like you're doing today, getting educated as to things you can do with your health that will help you be more resilient to these stresses that are going on at the present time. I've spoken about exercise. I'm not going to talk about that. I've mentioned deadline. Yeah, so I've spoken about all the uppers. So let's focus on the downers now. So autonomy is been taken away from us. As you know, we're in isolation. And a lot of the, things we can control have been taken away. So, as I mentioned, we just need to focus what's in our control and work on that. And light to moderate exercises within our control. Yes, we can get out to parks. We can exercise in the parks. So take advantage of that. So there's scientific studies that show that nature is very calming. It helps us regulate cortisol. It's certainly advantageous to calm us and to help us get into that rest and repair state, as opposed to that stress state, which is that fight, flight, or freeze. What these downers are all about is getting you into this recuperative, maintenance, restorative phase. So I've got pets as the next one. So obviously, if you've got pets, really adore them during these times. And yeah, there's scientific research to show the company that pets bring us, the love that they bring us, and that feeling of company, particularly if you're lonely, can really help us manage cortisol levels. Friends and loved ones, obviously friends that bring you joy and happiness, not ones that bring you stress. So I'm talking more the ones that make you laugh, that you like being around. So gravitate more towards those during these times. And the loved ones that also bring you joy, happiness, and laughter, and share positivity and optimism. Rest and relaxation, we're going to talk a bit more about laughter and fun. So the more laughing you do, the more funny shows you watch, the comedy on Netflix, things like that can really help. Mindfulness activities, as you know, meditation, breathing exercises, we're going to talk a bit more about in the coming slides. And then we're going to cover eating in the coming slides in further detail. So now on to mindfulness. So I'm not specifically just talking meditation. Meditation's a form of mindfulness. What I'm really talking about is whatever takes you into the here and now. What brings you presence? What makes you just let go of what's going on around, let go of the past, let go of the future, and really just feel the now. So feel within your body, feel your senses, your smell, engage with your taste, what brings the feeling of you feel relaxed. You just that deep breath out. It's those activities that we want to be doing more of to help regulate this cortisol through the day. So yes, we can get out and play sport. Well, mind you, it's probably solo sport. Exercise, yes, we can do that. And there's plenty of apps where you can do exercise. There's plenty of YouTubers at the moment that are helping us do exercise. Again, keep it to light and moderate exercise. High intensity is probably a bit over the top. Unless you're doing it for a short period of time and you're not doing it every day. So yes, you can go out and do high intensity sessions. Yes, go for it. It is healthy. It's probably not healthy if you're doing it twice a day and every day of the week. So again, it comes back to moderation and balance. So balance that high intensity day of training with a light day, whether it be yoga, Pilates, a light walk, moderate walk. So really find this balance. It really helps our body find balance when we're doing things that create balance. Playing with children, that can really bring you into the here and now. Children very much live in the present moment, and they'll drag you into their world if you allow them to drag you into their world. Same with pets, as I mentioned earlier. Engaging with nature, so going out for an evening walk, watching the sun drop, or in the morning watching the sun rise. Or just getting out there, observing trees and birds, and really therapeutic, really calming. So these are just all things that are going to calm you. Anything that's calming is going to help the body regulate that cortisol and keep it in that circadian rhythm that we discussed about earlier. Meditation's that obvious one that a lot of people talk about. There's meditation apps out there such as the Calm app, there's Headspace, there's Smiley Mind, there's a number of meditation. If you just type in meditation in terms of your app searcher, and then you'll come up with a number of apps. And then I suggest you just download them, trial them, see what resonates best with you. Breathing exercises, fantastic. So this you can do anytime, anywhere, and it's essentially just breathing deeply. So really expanding that diaphragm. So what they recommend, in order to get to the really calm state, you need to be breathing around 5 to 7 cycles. So what do I mean by that? So 5 cycles would look like breathing in for 4 seconds. You can do this now as I talk you through it. So breathing in for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, holding for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then exhaling for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that essentially will be 5 cycles. If you do that 5 times in a minute, you will feel calm, more calmer. So you can do it anytime that you get a bit worked up by a post that someone's posted, or someone's frustrated you, or at any point, or your bank account's low and you start pondering about your finances. In order to get your headspace away from that, focus on your breath, do the cycle breathing. It will calm you. You'll get connected with your body. Breathing exercises are fantastic. There's so many forms. There's the Wim Hof method. If you go on Google, just Google breathing exercises, you'll get a raft. There's yoga breathing. There's all sorts of forms of breathing. So, and as I said earlier with the meditation, same with breathing exercises, find something that resonates with you. And I've got here dancing. Dancing's that great way of moving your body to music, and it just takes you away from everything that's going on, because you're just focused on that beat and getting your body in rhythm with that beat. And so that can be very therapeutic. It associates movement, so you're getting exercise, you're getting in breathing, so you're doing deeper breaths because you're moving. So dancing's fantastic. So play some music that you like and bop away. You're home, you're isolated, so no one's watching. Enjoy it. So that can be fantastic. Some other forms of, I guess, connecting breath with movement are Tai Chi and yoga, of course. So there's some other exercises that also incorporate mindfulness. Okay, so how can we take this regular mindfulness practice and put it throughout our day? So I've come up with some suggestions here. So obviously getting out in the morning, doing your exercise is a great way. If you can do that in nature, even better. So just getting out there, that's really going to help with just cortisol regulation, helping wake you up as well without having excess amount of coffee in the morning. So it's more a natural way to wake up. Get sunlight. So what I love about getting early morning sunlight is it starts this serotonin production. Serotonin is that feel-good neurotransmitter. It's a mood stabilizing neurotransmitter. So getting sunlight's important to manufacture our body to manufacture serotonin. And as I said earlier, we need serotonin levels at in order to produce melatonin. So how we'll turn serotonin into melatonin is by just creating darkness. And I'm going to go into that later on in the presentation. Obviously, you'll probably get to work, go to work in the morning or mind the kids, depending on what situation you're in. And then you want to having another break, you want to be, have a break around lunchtime and just get some, whether it be a walk, or you might do your meditation at lunchtime. You might do your breathing exercises at lunchtime. It's just incorporating elements of mindfulness throughout the day. So we are keeping in check those cortisol levels, and hence at the end of the day, they're at a level which allows us to sleep. It's so essential. I'm just going to check in to see if there's any comments or people have asked any questions. So I'm just going to leave it at the sleep and go back to the comments section. Okay. There's nothing on the board at the moment, but as I said, please feel free to open up the chat box and put in any questions you have at this point in time. I'll be here for a minute or so just to allow you to ask any questions if any questions are coming to mind. Okay, you must be ready for me to rock and roll with sleep. How many coffees could I have in the morning to be at a healthy level? Thanks, Nori. So I suggest a single coffee in the morning should be adequate. Now, it depends where your body's at. So if it's severely sleep deprived, you're going to probably feel like more than one coffee. And so what I'm helping you with today is getting into good practices, and it will take time for these to actually take effect and work. Some people will adapt really quickly depending on where you're at. If you're severely sleep deprived, having lots of coffee, then weaning down the coffees is challenging. And then obviously so I'd suggest one, Nori, and then if you feel like another one through the day, green tea is the best substitute because it actually helps with sleep in the evening. I'm going to go into that in more details as to why green tea is beneficial. I don't suggest green tea in the evening. I do suggest a non-caffeinated source, but green tea during the day is fine and much better because it's got lower levels of caffeine than coffee. So I hope that answers your question, Nori. I'll jump back into presentation. Okay, here we go. Okay, so here I've got creating a sleep routine. So why this is important is because we operate really good when we form good habits, and our body gets in. Our body then behaves like clockwork, and so that's what I'm wanting to teach you today is start introducing some good habits and then maintain them and be consistent with them. And so I've come up with this, and this sleep routine won't work for everyone because it all depends on your individual circumstances. but not eating too late at night is really helpful. So we don't want to be eating too late at night. So the earlier we eat, the better, and the lighter the meal. We don't want a real heavy meal. So so I suggest you certainly keep your meals to more that lighter side of things, and earlier. And having lots of vegetables really beneficial. Having some carbohydrates is beneficial, and then obviously a bit of protein. So I'm going to get into more the dietary side a bit later on, and I'll cover that in more detail. So then obviously after dinner, it's not getting back to work, because obviously getting back to work, answering emails and things like that is going to elevate cortisol, and that's what we don't want to do. We really want to keep your work confined to day hours. And if anything, it's best to actually get up earlier and start the day earlier, than to work into the evening. And the reason why I'm saying this is the studies have shown that our most restorative sleep is between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. And so if we're getting to bed after 10 p.m. and sometimes not before 2 a.m., we're losing that really deep restorative sleep. So I suggest you adopt some of these practices that really highly effective people do, and they get up super early. I know the Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, he gets up, I think it's something like 3:30 or 4 a.m. in the morning every day, but he's consistent with it. And you probably, if you remember that graph I showed you earlier, cortisol starting to rise at that time. So we can function all right at that hour of the morning, but he's getting that great window of 10 to 2. So he's getting that really deep restorative sleep. And what he also does is he has regular practices of mindfulness throughout the day. So, he's big on, does his exercise, big on meditation. And so you'll find these people that are highly effective have these routines and rituals that they just do consistently every day. And this is what I really want you to take home today is create healthy habits. Put them into a routine, so you're doing them every day, and then just be consistent with them. So after dinner, yes, it's time to have your herbal tea, your relaxing herbal tea. There's plenty of night sort of teas that have those relaxing herbs in them. So you can go to the supermarket and buy a sleepy tea formula. There's plenty of them out there. Chamomile tea. There's a number of teas that will, lemon balm. There's lavender. There's all sorts of herbs that are really calm us and relax us. And then watching something that brings you peace. So not something like if you're watching, Four Corners or something like that, or 60 Minutes, not something that's going to wind you up, or the news or whatever, something that will bring you down and calm you. So that could be a comedy, something light, something that, it's not really a heavy documentary that you have to think and process things. It's more things you can just sort of chill and really just let the show and have a laugh, and just let it, play and enjoy it. And so then obviously, you want to be, so when I say reduce lighting, that's really ideally 2 hours before you go to bed. So if we say we want to be asleep by 10 p.m. ideally, then at 8 p.m. we want to be dimming the lights. Sorry, I've been talking too much and not breathing. So essentially dimming the lights around 8 p.m. And what you can do, which is really nice, is light some candles. Candlelight is fantastic. Or just let the moonlight come through your house. So if you've got some privacy and you can leave the curtains up, then that's ideal. If you don't have the privacy, then obviously the curtains are down. But then just turning on some lamps, fewer lights the better. Lamp light, that warmer light, not that really fluorescent white, blue light that comes from the TV and the electronic devices. So it's more that warmer lighting from lamps, from candles. So that's fantastic. Then turn on the music that really calms you. So for me, that's nature sounds. So I love hearing, raindrops, I guess, waves breaking, birds chirping. I love all the nature sounds. So I'll play nature music. And it tends to be that meditation music that you may be familiar with. And then after doing that, I suggest you then, during this process, obviously, of just relaxing, winding, and reading something light. This is when you really want to turn off. This point is totally eliminate your exposure to phone. So put your phone on silence. Maybe turn on airplane mode. Stop the notifications coming in, and really make it your time. And you can let all your friends know that, hey, from 8 p.m. I'm not contactable. It's my time. So own that time. If you have friends and family overseas, it can be a bit challenging because that may be the time when you can communicate to them. So again, you need to tailor this to you. I'm just giving you some guidelines that you can think about. So yeah, during this process, you will have thoughts that are ruminating in your mind. It could be negative thoughts. It could be your to-do list. Any of those things. What you want to be doing is writing them down on a piece of paper, a journal. Just putting them on paper. That action of taking them onto paper really empties the mind. What we want to be doing is just creating space in our minds. We create this space through writing down our thoughts, how we're feeling, writing down our to-do list, and then finishing that exercise with a gratitude journal of what we're grateful for, what went well for us that day. It may be, the government released a new grant that you're eligible for, or your bank's giving you mortgage assistance or relief or something like that. Or a friend's just, checked in with you and checked how you're going and they care for you, or whatever it might be. It's just taking note of all those things that you're really grateful for and that you have in your life. So it's focusing on the things you have and not the things you don't have. And really starting that as a regular practice is a great way of just, I guess, emptying your mind and putting in seeds of, things of gratitude, things that will help make you feel great about, yes, I do have a lot of good things in my life. No matter what I'm going through, I do have this great friend that I can talk to. I do have this, family that constantly checks and sees if I'm all right. Or I do have, my pet dog, or that always loves me unconditionally, or something like that, or your pet cat, or whatever it might be. This time is also a good time to be, you can do some of these things concurrently at the same time, but, to have a bath, if you've got a bath at home, with Epsom salts, sprinkle some essential oils, the calming essential oils, so the lavender oils, lemon balm, some of those herbs, and just relax in the bath. What Epsom salts are magnesium salts, and essentially they relax the muscles. So it's telling the muscles to relax, and that sends a signal to your brain, things are okay, I'm all right, I don't need to be tense anymore. And so more signals you send to your brain that everything's okay, like writing a gratitude journal, your mind starts to calm. It starts to be a lot more peaceful. And then getting into bed. So obviously we want to get into our space where we don't have any disruptions. We haven't got electronic devices. You just got your alarm clock, or if your phone's in your room, you can have it on airplane mode, in a corner, away from you, and for your alarm, whatever it might be. But it's just not watching TV in bed. It's not iPads and responding to Facebook messages and all that sort of thing. It's, you don't want stimulus. You really want your bedroom as your space, your sacred space where you sleep. Okay, so I'm just going to check in to see if there's any questions. So feel free to put any questions down in the comment bar if you've got any questions at this point. I'll just be here for a few seconds. I'll just allow enough time for you to write any. How about Kindle? Yeah, so certainly there's devices that regulate the amount of blue light and white light that's transmitted. and you can put these filters on your devices, and the Kindle's, I guess, one of those devices that isn't emitting a lot of white and blue light. So yes, Robin, you can read, and I suggest you do something that's calming in bed, relaxing, that's for you. And again, I was just talking about a generic routine. You need to find something that's really fitting for you, that you feel nourished by. So yes, that can be reading your Kindle in bed, provided it's not a stimulus book, or you have to solve mysteries and things like that. It's more that light-hearted fictional book. So yes, Robin, it's fine. There's actually a great app that you can measure the lighting. So it's Lux. So you want just type in Lux, Lux, in your app. And that will measure the light. So you can use your phone. So I've got it downloaded on my phone. You can actually measure the light in your house. And so what you want the lux, to be is under 100 lux. And so if you've created an environment that's under 100, that's ideal. And you'll notice when you shine your phone onto a computer screen that the lux significantly goes up. It's up around 300. Yeah. It's, if you need something to think, have I got enough darkness? 100 lux, it isn't complete darkness. It's not that you can't see. You can absolutely see in 100 lux. It just doesn't make a good photo. So it's quite, it's dark enough that the photo would need a flash. But certainly it's enough to get you you find your way around the house without tripping over anything. And it does create a good mood. And I find when I'm in that 100 lux or less than 100 lux environment, I actually start feeling tired after a bit of time. So that's just that's your melatonin, or your serotonin converting to melatonin, and that will happen. That conversion from serotonin to melatonin will happen upon darkness. So once the room gets below 100 lux, your body's going to start making melatonin. And again, that needs to be in the evening. Obviously, your body's not going to do it during the day. It's not designed during the day to produce melatonin. And obviously, cortisol helps suppress melatonin production. Okay, nutrition. So here I've covered, I guess, some macros, which is the big groups that you need a lot of. So protein's a macronutrient, carbs is a macronutrient, and fats is a macronutrient. Vitamins and minerals are your micro. So you need them in smaller amounts. So I wanted to cover here, what are the key sources of protein I should have? So proteins, there's essentially complete proteins, which are made up of amino acids that our bodies can't manufacture. So our bodies can produce or manufacture certain amino acids depending on if it's got the right source from our diet, a complete amino acid set. So they're the ones that our body can't manufacture. So what gives us complete protein? So animal products are typically complete proteins. They've got all your essential amino acids. If you're a vegetarian or vegan, then you need to be combining grains, seeds, nuts, and legumes. You need to be combining all of them and having them every day. If you're not combining them and you've cut out legumes for whatever reason, or you cut out carbs, you're trying to do veganism, low carb or whatever, it doesn't really work. You're really going to become quite protein deficient. So one of the amino acids is tryptophan. That's essential for. So tryptophan is needed to make serotonin, the neurotransmitter serotonin. So our body will convert tryptophan to serotonin. And as I said before, we need serotonin in adequate levels in order to produce melatonin, which is our sleep hormone. So you're probably thinking, what are the sources, good food sources of tryptophan? So I've included a link in this presentation, which will take me to the web. Now this website here, My Food Data, is a reputable data source. So I think it's the University of Minnesota in the States that maintain this database. So obviously they are analyzing the foods and what they've got within those foods, and they're regularly doing that. So I like this. So myfooddata.com. So save that on your browser. So here it's already come, I've already got the link direct to tryptophan. But if you're looking for other foods, you just go up to food lists like I have here. And you'll see here, so, vitamin A, if you're concerned about vitamin E, everyone's wanting more vitamin C because of the virus. As everyone generally knows, the vitamin C is good for our immune system. And then, it's got your amino acids. So here's the essential amino acids. Obviously, there's more amino acids, but this is what the body needs from the diet. So tryptophan is one of those. What are the foods rich in tryptophan? Good thing is this website explains, look, it says here, it's essential for creating serotonin in the body. Niacin, that's vitamin B3. So tryptophan can be converted to B3. Okay, and I won't go through this, but pepitas. So if you're vegetarian or vegan, then pepita seeds, fantastic. Number one, tryptophan. Soy. The other good thing is you can filter this via what you are. So you can look at foods and then filter it again by, so vegetarian proteins. And so depending on what you want to take out of your diet or what restrictions you have, you can run some filters. Anyway, you guys can work that out. I've got to get on and sharing the rest of this Prezzo with you without running out of time. So no more comments. I'll get back to the Prezzo. So here we go. So tryptophan. Now, theanine, which is what's green tea has high amounts of theanine. Theanine is really calming on the mind. So it's an amino acid that's calming. Green tea, having that is a great source of bit of stimulus, but not too much stimulus. It's also great in terms of detoxification. It's powerful antioxidants. It's great for your skin. It's really, it's a superfood essentially. So that's matcha. So you can buy the matcha powder, or you can, buy green tea. Mushrooms is also a good source of theanine. The other amino acid is glutamine, and this is, you get it from bone broths. Will be rich in, but again, you can go back to that source. Look at glutamine-rich foods. But essentially, if you're eating some animal products, then you'll be getting your complete amino acids. If you're not eating any animal products, that's when you need to make sure you're combining the vegetarian proteins well and regularly. Vitamins, vitamin D is essential. So this, obviously our body makes vitamin D once it's exposed to UVB, which is ultraviolet B radiation. So we need sun exposure. We need to get out to the sun so our body can synthesize, manufacture vitamin D. The sun is a catalyst, so we actually don't get it from the sun. The sun just allows our body to manufacture it. It's also in food, so you can see here the foods. Seafood, you'll get vitamin D, and particularly the oily fishes. So vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin. You'll find it in fats. So oily fishes such as salmon, sardines, mackerel, good sources of vitamin D. There's eggs, and there's fortified products. I don't suggest you get it from fortified products, because those fortified products tend to be rubbish. They tend to be your white breads. They tend to be your, rice, Cocoa Pops, Nutrigrain, all this rubbish stuff. So don't go for fortified products. So that's where they add vitamin D into the products, is fortified products. Your Bs, you need to be getting all your Bs. How do you get all your Bs? You need to have this variety in your diet. So one of the key takeaways in terms of dietary intake is make sure you maximize your variety. Don't just have the same thing every day. Diversify, mix it up. More variety, the better. Calcium is an essential mineral. I've got some plant-based sources of calcium, and obviously the one you're well aware of is the dairy products. But it's good to mix up your calcium sources. Plant-based is very healthy. We want to be eating predominantly plant-based foods. Magnesium, essential. It's another cofactor that allows the production of these neurotransmitters that we need to help us sleep, such as the melatonin hormone. So magnesium, and that's where you'll only get that from your dark leafy green vegetables, but it's contained within that chlorophyll. So seaweed, or spirulina, these all have magnesium. So anything dark and leafy or dark green, essentially, is what I'm saying. And then iron's essential. So iron deficiency can result in lack of sleep, and again, because it's involved in the production of these sleep hormones. So we do need iron. We need adequate levels of iron. So here's some sources. Again, you can go back to that My Food data. That will give you other sources. As I mentioned before, variety is key. I'll reiterate that. The more variety in your diet, the better, and that's variety on a good sense. So not, every now and then binging on junk food. It's variety of whole foods, variety of live foods, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and grains. I want to touch on this because it's key. I know we're running a little bit close to time. But essentially, if you're looking at what my plate should look like, how much variety, what it should consist of. So when I say acid, it's how the food metabolizes in your body. So are they acidic metabolites or are they alkalizing metabolites? So don't think that apple cider vinegar or lemon or any of these things that taste acidic, they metabolize alkaline in the body. So it's not how they taste, it's actually how they metabolize. And I'm going to go through, and I can actually send you a document that contains the foods that are more acidic and the foods that are more alkalizing. Yes, we do need acidic foods, but we don't want the majority of our diet being acidic foods. Acidic foods are predominantly meats, cheeses, really high in acid metabolites. Then you've got your grains, your seeds, your nuts. So it's more your protein-like foods. But we do need protein. It's essential, as I mentioned before. But we don't need excessive amounts of protein. A third is sufficient. Again, I'm generalizing. If you're an elite athlete, obviously elite athletes do need more protein. This is what we in the Western world failed to do, is have enough alkalizing foods. And what are these foods? So, I touched on the acidic foods. I'll send you a document that you can see this better. Your alkalizing foods are your fruits, vegetables, your dark leafy greens. Anything that goes in that green smoothie is generally very alkalizing. Pumpkin seeds, you can see, really alkalizing. Okay, I'm going to share this document, so I won't go into any more details. You probably got a question in your mind: how is alcohol good for my sleep? Yes, alcohol may help you initially doze off because it's a temporary calmer on the nervous system. It initiates GABA. GABA is calming. There's, I guess, natural ways to initiate GABA, but what happens is the ethanol group that binds to these GABA receptors will, after a couple of hours, go off, and then your body is insufficiently got enough to keep you asleep. So this is why, yes, you'll have alcohol, you'll fall asleep, but you won't stay asleep. Alcohol is not a good way of getting yourself to sleep. Go back to that sleep routine, embed mindfulness throughout the day. You'll find there's less of a need for alcohol. If you can moderate your mood and feelings through mindfulness, it's far better and far more beneficial. What else alcohol does? It depletes these essential nutrients, amino acids that essentially help in the manufacturing of our hormones, whether that be our sleep hormones or whether it be our other bodily functions. So we don't want to be depleting ourselves or depriving our body of these, because we become nutritionally deficient, and hence we struggle to make serotonin, struggle to make melatonin. We won't be sleeping, and we'll go into that, I can't sleep, so I'm going to have more alcohol. And you get into this bad, vicious cycle. It needs to be broken. And it will cause I touched on before the microbiome. It's a massive subject. I could do a webinar purely on the microbiome, which is our diversity of bacteria that we have in our gastrointestinal tract. Alcohol does. It just kills it and allows the pathogen ones, or the more negative associated bacteria, to thrive or overgrow. So we certainly don't want regular amounts of alcohol going through our system, because it does disrupt our guts. And as I said, our guts are producing 70% of our serotonin, which we know is beneficial for healthy bowel function, also beneficial for our mind health. So we certainly want to be looking after our friends down here in our gastrointestinal tract, and alcohol is not one of those ways. And stress causes dysbiosis. So all those things I spoke about earlier, stress sources, they will cause dysbiosis, which is imbalance. We want balance. We want to strive for balance. Okay, so in wrapping up this presentation, you need to take a holistic approach to sleep. It's not just enough to focus on one area. You may start out focusing on one area because I've overwhelmed you with all the things you need to focus on. So it may help just breaking it down and focusing on one area, and then adding in additional things to help you create this great routine for you that helps you sleep. But it does take a holistic approach. It requires you doing dietary things well. It requires you doing activities during the day well. That's regular breaks, taking regular breaks throughout the day, managing your stresses, keeping the cortisol down, getting sunlight is essential, movement, exercise, all these things, and then having that nice sleep routine at night. All these things will really help you embed good sleep and then healthy behaviors. Poor sleep results in unhealthy habits. And yeah, obviously then that just cascades down to consistently bad, unhealthy habits. And then, we start gaining weight, we start getting sick and things like that. So obviously, holistic approach to it. Find your routine that works for you and be consistent. And as I said, I was always going to give you a gift for joining the webinar today. And the gift for you is, if you want to talk about something specific to you that's health related, then I'm gifting 20 minutes of my time to you for taking time out of your day to invest in your health. There's no catches attached to this free 20 minutes. It's purely me gifting my time to you and helping you on your health journey. That's all it is. So if you want to take me up on that gift, then just send me an email. You've actually got my email because I actually sent you those reminders via my email. So you just need to respond to take me up on that. I'm going to go back to check in to see if there's any questions. Let me go back. Feel free to ask any questions at this point. Yes, I do see one that's come through. Okay. Yes, Nori. Pretty much all meats will contain tryptophan. So Nori's asking, you can see it in the comments. Nori's asking, what are the best meats for tryptophan? What I suggest in terms of meat consumption is sticking to meats that are lean. Obviously, we don't want meats that are really fatty. Lean types of meat, and again, it gets back to variety. So not eating the same meats, not eating chicken every day, not eating beef every day, not eating lamb every day. Huge amount of variety in terms of the meat, and huge amount of variety in terms of the cut of meat, because the cut of meat will contain different vitamins and minerals. So This, just having chicken breast and only chicken breast. You need to have a bit of leg, have a bit of wing. Again, moderation, variety is the key. How about red wine at night? Yes, so of all wines, the best wine for your gut. So red wine is in moderation. I must state moderation, Robin. Red wine is the most beneficial one. Moderation being a single standard drink, and that's 100 mils of wine. So it's not your big, massive goblet, which could maybe contain half a bottle. But, so it's really sticking to the guidelines of a standard drink, 100 mils, and really enjoy it. So what I suggest you do in order to stick to moderation, buy a really expensive bottle that you would normally not buy. And then just enjoy it. Have 100 mils a night, and 100 mils will last you, a week. So you'll get a whole week out of that nice bottle. Yes, it's the most beneficial one, but stick to one. Okay, so someone's had to shoot off. So they've just left the meeting. But is there any other questions? I'm happy to hang on here for 5 more minutes to take any questions. I'm here for you. So this is, and if you want me to, if I haven't been clear in my explanation, I'm happy to go back and explain a concept better and clearer. So Nori's asked about fermented foods, and I did touch on the microbiome. So obviously fermented foods contain beneficial bacteria. And so this is why there's a lot of hype around kombucha, sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, yogurt, all these things. They're all fermented products. Yes, alcohol's fermented. So what are any recommended fermented foods? Again, variety. I'll come back to variety. So having a bit of miso soup, having a bit of kimchi, kombucha, but not having 5 kombuchas a day. That's not good. You just get all this excessive bloating and wind, and then you'll build up too much of that one bacteria from what you're bringing in, and that can create this imbalance. So again, stick with variety. In terms of fermented foods, yes, incorporate them into your diet, unless you're, it can irritate certain conditions or health. Depending on where you're at with your health, fermented products may create more bloating. But certainly, variety, and, pickled vegetables and all those, it's all great. So I think a great diet in terms of fermented foods is the Japanese cuisine. So that they have there's a wide variety of fermented products in the Japanese cuisine. And I noticed my bowel movements, my bowel function, my gut health, everything was working perfectly when I was in Japan for 2 weeks. It also helped that I was on holidays, but I was eating all the fermented foods and sticking to local foods, and my bowel function was fantastic. Certainly the Japanese cuisine, and then go for variety in terms of the Japanese cuisine. Any other questions? If there's not, I would like to thank you all for very much taking this time out, investing in your health. Yes, I will share the recording with you in case you've missed something. Feel free to book in for the free 20-minute consult if you've got further specific questions to your health, then more than happy to address them one-on-one. In the meantime, stay well, follow the government protocols, and just do as much as you can in terms of what I shared with you today. Implement as much as you can. Take it baby steps if you need to, but really embrace it, embrace elements of it, and just go on your journey and find what works for you. Everyone's different, so there's things that are going to work for you, other things that don't. Find what works for you and keep doing it. If it's working, be consistent with it. So take care, everyone. love for me, and yeah, we'll be in touch in the future, no doubt. Take care. Bye.